The morning was calm in Battery Park. The sea wind carried the soft cry of seagulls, and the city moved, as it always did, fast, loud, and unaware. Leonard Brooks, a 70-year-old blind man, walked slowly with his white cane tapping the ground. He wore his best grey suit, the one his late wife Dolores always loved. Every Sunday, he came to that same bench near the fountain to listen to the street musicians. For him, sound painted pictures sight never could. But that morning was different. He felt whispers in the air, sharp, cold, and mocking. "Hey, old man," someone called. Leonard turned his head slightly, unsure if it was friendly or cruel. The voices grew louder. Laughter followed. A group of teenagers circled around him. One kicked his cane away. The crowd nearby hesitated. No one stepped forward. Leonard reached out helplessly. "Please, I'm just—" Before he could finish, someone shoved him. He fell hard to the ground, his hands scraping the pavement. One of the boys shouted, "Can't you see where you're going?" The others laughed. The irony cut deeper than the fall. Across the park, a 14-year-old boy named Jaylen Morris held up his phone, recording everything. His hands trembled. He wanted to stop it, but he was just a kid, scared, frozen. Still, he didn't look away. His camera became the only witness. The teenagers walked off, still laughing. The people who watched began to move again, pretending they saw nothing. Leonard sat on the ground for a long time, the world spinning in sound and silence. Then Jaylen approached him quietly. "Sir, I'm sorry," he said. Leonard turned his head toward the voice. "Why are you sorry, son?" Jaylen hesitated. "Because I filmed it, and because I didn't stop them." Leonard smiled sadly. "Maybe one day you'll know what to do with that video." That night, Jaylen couldn't sleep. The clip replayed in his mind, the laughter, the fall, the silence afterward. He felt something he'd never felt before, guilt mixed with anger. At midnight, he opened his phone, edited the clip, and posted it online with a single caption: "How blind are we really?" Within hours, it spread across the internet. The world had seen the cruelty, the humiliation, the silence. But no one yet knew the man in the grey suit, Leonard Brooks. If this moment broke your heart, don't just scroll away. Subscribe now and help us tell the rest of Leonard's story. Because sometimes, the only thing more dangerous than hate is silence. Jaylen Morris sat on his couch, the phone trembling in his hands. The 42-second clip of Leonard falling in Battery Park had already gone viral, but he couldn't shake the image of the old man's face, stoic yet wounded. The laughter of the teenagers echoed in his ears. Jaylen had filmed it, yes, but he hadn't acted fast enough to stop the cruelty. He scrolled through the comments. Some were angry, some were kind, some were cruel. "This is unacceptable. Why didn't anyone help him? Where is this park?" Every comment carried a story, a memory, a pain that connected to Leonard in ways Jaylen hadn't realized. The city was watching, and so was Jaylen, wondering what justice could even mean in a world that ignored its elders. Meanwhile, Leonard Brooks sat in his apartment, unaware of the viral storm. The fall in the park was just another Sunday, another reminder that life often passed him by. Yet when Jaylen knocked on his door the next day, hesitating but determined, Leonard felt something stir. The boy didn't apologize at first. He simply placed the phone between them and pressed play. Leonard listened. He heard the laughter, the shove, the scrape of his cane against stone. His chest tightened. His heart pounded, but there was no panic. Only recognition. The same world he had navigated for decades had struck again. Jaylen spoke softly. "They didn't know who you were, but now they do." Leonard exhaled slowly. "I've walked through worse and survived. What matters is not the fall, but the rise afterward." Jaylen nodded, inspired by the strength in Leonard's calm voice. Together they discussed what to do next. Not revenge, not shame, visibility, truth. Leonard's story needed to be seen, heard, felt. By evening, Jaylen shared a few clips online, this time carefully, respectfully. The post caption read, "His name is Leonard, he matters." Within hours, the video exploded. People shared it, tweeted it, commented on it. Local activists picked it up. Musicians, journalists, and ordinary citizens began to speak. The city could no longer ignore Leonard's dignity being trampled, his courage being silent. Jaylen realized then that bravery didn't always mean stepping in first. Sometimes It meant holding steady, capturing truth, and letting the world witness it. Leonard, though blind, was finally seen. The fall in Battery Park had awakened a city. It had begun with a 70-year-old man's dignity and a boy's courage to not look away. If this story moved you, don't just scroll, subscribe now. Hit the bell and join us in sharing the voices that the world often ignores. Because seeing is more than using your eyes, it's using your heart. The morning air in Battery Park was crisp, carrying the faint scent of magnolia and saltwater. Leonard Brooks, dressed in a simple dark coat, gripped his cane tightly. Today wasn't about fear, today was about being seen. Jaylen Morris walked beside him, phone in hand, ready to record, but more importantly, ready to bear witness. Families and elders had begun to gather quietly, curious whispers filling the space. The boys from that morning, gone. Rumors had spread, some had seen the viral clip, some had felt the shame before anyone spoke a word. Leonard's presence alone demanded attention. He wasn't there to confront, he was there to reclaim dignity that had been stripped away. He stopped in the center of the park, adjusted his cap, and tapped his cane once on the cobblestone. Silence fell. Every pair of eyes turned toward him, not to mock, not to judge, but to truly see a man who had endured decades of being ignored, dismissed, and laughed at. The weight of the moment pressed down, heavy yet liberating. Jaylen held his breath. Leonard raised a hand, signaling for the crowd to lean in. Slowly, deliberately, he lifted the bass that had been delivered to him just days before. It was worn, familiar, imperfect, but it was his voice. No microphone, no fanfare, just music waiting to speak the truth. The first note rang out, soft, trembling, yet full of life. Leonard's fingers, though slower now, danced across the strings. A simple blues line, walking steadily through sorrow and memory. Each pluck carried decades of struggle, humiliation, and resilience. The crowd was mesmerized, quiet as if the music itself had lifted them above the park into something sacred. Teenagers passed by, some glancing nervously at the man they had mocked. They didn't know what to do with the sound, the dignity, the weight of Leonard's presence. Jaylen captured everything, knowing this wasn't just content, this was history. The music spoke louder than fear, louder than cruelty, louder than ignorance. For 38 minutes, Leonard played. The sun shifted, shadows lengthened, and the air vibrated with something deeper than applause. He didn't need it. The silence of reverence was enough. When he finally set the bass down, he whispered, "This is the sound they didn't expect me to carry, but I still had it, I always had it." Jaylen exhaled, his hands shaking. He realized bravery wasn't just filming or witnessing, it was showing the world what dignity looks like when tested. Leonard had transformed a fall into a statement. He had turned ridicule into reverence. That night, the video of Leonard's performance spread far beyond Charleston. News outlets covered it. Social media lit up with admiration, respect, and emotion. People shared stories of their own grandfathers, mentors, and heroes who had been ignored or silenced. Leonard's music became a bridge, connecting generations, races, and ages through simple, undeniable humanity. If this chapter moved you, if Leonard's courage stirred something inside, subscribe now. Hit the bell icon to witness more stories of resilience and dignity, because sometimes the quietest voices create the loudest change. The day after Leonard's performance, Charleston felt different, though nothing had physically changed. The sun rose over Battery Park, birds chirped, and the bricks were still cracked, but the city had paused to listen. Conversations carried whispers of respect and awe. People spoke of dignity and courage in the quietest of tones, as if afraid to break the spell Leonard's music had woven. Leonard sat on his porch, cane resting beside him, hands folded across his lap. He wasn't thinking about fame, viral clips, or news coverage. He was thinking about every moment he had walked unseen, every shove, every sneer, every door closed to him. And yet here he was seen, heard, and felt. Jaylen knocked gently, entering without announcement, carrying the warmth of friendship and admiration. "They're listening now," he said softly. Leonard smiled faintly, a mixture of relief and quiet pride. The boys who had attacked him remained in the background, but the city had changed them too. Conversations between neighbors hinted at accountability. Teachers in schools showed Leonard's video to students, not to shame, but to teach empathy. Activists used it to spark discussions on respect, racism, and generational injustice. Leonard's music had become more than sound, it was a mirror to society, reflecting what needed to be acknowledged. Inside his home, Leonard returned to his bass. Jaylen placed messages from strangers on the table, some kind, some harsh, and read them aloud. Leonard listened without bitterness. The world's attention was selective, fleeting, but it was enough to remind him that silence had power only until it was broken. That evening, he played again, letting each note carry hope, pain, and reconciliation. The backyard became a sanctuary where music healed both the listener and the performer. Word of Leonard's story spread beyond Charleston. Interviews, radio segments, and small features highlighted his resilience, but Leonard bristled at labels like hero or symbol. He had never wanted to be anything other than himself, a man living with dignity, sharing his music, and teaching a city the quiet power of standing tall when the world tried to knock you down. Jaylen understood this. He captured everything, not for fame, but for legacy, for those who had been invisible for too long. Leonard and Jaylen often sat together in silence, letting the notes linger in the air. It was in those moments that the boy realized bravery was not about being loud. It was about being present, being steadfast, and refusing to let cruelty define a person. Leonard's bass sang of past pain, but also of resilience and quiet revolution. If this story touched your heart, if Leonard's courage moved you even a little, subscribe now. Hit the bell icon. Share this story so voices like Leonard's are never ignored again. Every click, every view, every share spreads dignity, justice, and hope to a world that desperately needs it.